Around the year 600, someone in England wrote down a price. 6 shillings for a front tooth. 1 shilling for a back tooth. Nobody looks at those. 12 for an ear. 50 for an eye. The list goes on for pages. Every part of you has a number. This is not a doctor's bill. It is the oldest law ever written in the English language. The law code of King Ethelbert of Kent. And here is the strange thing about it. There is almost no punishment in it. No prison. No lashes. Almost no executions. Just prices. Break it, pay for it. And the money does not go to the king. It goes to the person you injured. Kill a man, and there is a price for that too. It was called wergild. Man price. An ordinary free man was worth 200 shillings. A nobleman, 1,200. You paid it to his family, and then it was over. Which sounds monstrous. A man's life, priced like a cow. But you are reading it backwards. Because you are asking what the punishment was for. The right question is what it replaced. Because before there were prices, there was only one system. Someone hurts you. Your family hurts them back. That is the feud. And it is older than every law. Now here's the part people never think through. A feud has no natural stopping point. Because both sides are always one death behind. You take one, so they take one, so you owe one. And nobody is ever allowed to be the last one hit. Animals fight too, but animals cannot do this. A deer that loses walks away and forgets. Humans have language, which means we have memory. A grandson can inherit an argument he never heard. So a killing in one generation can still be killing people a century later. Icelandic sagas are essentially records of this. Families destroying each other over an insult nobody remembers. And a small society cannot survive it. 10 farmers is a village. 8 farmers is a famine. So the first great legal invention in human history was not a prison or a judge or a police force. It was a number. A number big enough to satisfy, small enough to pay. An off switch for revenge. And once you see that, the ancient world reads completely differently. Which brings us to the most quoted law ever written. An eye for an eye. You know it as a symbol of savagery. It is the exact opposite. Around 1754 BC, a king in Babylon put up a stone, 2¼ meters of black rock, covered in law. 282 rules. Hammurabi's code. It sat in public, where anyone could see it. That placement is the whole point. Because an eye for an eye is not permission. It is a limit. It does not say you may take an eye. It says an eye is all you may take. Not the man, not his brother, not his village. Before the rule, a feud escalates. After it, it stops. And there is a detail in the code that gives the game away. The eye rule only applies between men of equal rank. Blind a commoner, and you do not lose an eye. You pay silver. So even the most famous punishment in history is a payment schedule wearing a scary mask. This is the pattern almost everywhere in the ancient world. Mesopotamia, Ireland, Iceland, Germanic Europe, the Arabian Peninsula. Different centuries, same solution. Because they all had the same problem. Nobody was trying to reform the offender. They were trying to stop the funeral from becoming a war. Which leaves one enormous question. If the ancient system was compensation, why does nobody pay you today? If somebody breaks your window, they are prosecuted. They may be fined. You get nothing from that fine. You are not the plaintiff. You are the witness. The case is not called you against him. It is called the state against him. Somewhere along the line, the victim was replaced. And we can date roughly when. The mechanism has a name. The King's Peace. Originally, it was small and literal. Fighting in the king's house insulted the king personally. So he was owed compensation too. Then the circle grew. The king's road. The king's market. The king's holidays. Then the whole kingdom, all the time. And now every crime is an insult to the crown. Under Henry II, this becomes a machine. Royal judges ride out on circuits across England. The Assize of Clarendon, 1166. Serious crimes become pleas of the crown, which is a phrase worth translating. It means the crown, not the victim, owns the case. And whoever owns the case collects on it. A convicted felon forfeited his goods. A convicted felon forfeited his goods. Justice had become a source of income. Now hold that, because we skipped something. There was one punishment older than all the price lists. And it required no prison, no guards, no equipment. You were simply told to leave. Exile, banishment, outlawry. And in a world with no police, that was close to a death sentence. Because law was not protection from the group. Law was membership in the group. An outlaw was outside it, literally beyond the law. In England, the term for one was wolf's head, meaning he could be hunted like an animal by anyone. And Athens took this idea and made it terrifyingly clean. Once a year, the citizens could hold a vote. Not a trial, a vote. You scratched a name onto a broken piece of pottery. The shard was called an ostracan, hence ostracism. If enough shards carried one name, that man left for 10 years. He kept his property. His family stayed. He had committed no crime at all. He was simply someone the city had decided it did not want. And in the Athenian agora, archaeologists found a well. Inside it, around 190 ostraca, all bearing the same name. Written, the handwriting suggests, by only a handful of people. Somebody was mass-producing votes. Even the purest punishment ever designed got gamed within a lifetime. So where does prison come in? Ask most people when prison was invented and they will guess, forever. Ancient societies did have cells, but almost never as the punishment itself. A cell was a waiting room. You were held before trial, or held until you paid what you owed. Locking someone in a room for years costs a fortune. You must feed him, guard him, get nothing back. To a medieval treasury, that is simply a bad deal. So punishment stayed public, physical, and fast. Because the point was the audience, not the offender. Punishment was a broadcast, a public demonstration that the rulers still had power. Then, quite suddenly, that stops. Within roughly a century, Europe and America move it indoors. Out of sight, behind walls, scheduled. And a genuinely new idea appears. That the point of punishment is to change the person. In 1790, Philadelphia converts a wing of Walnut Street Jail. Quaker reformers had a theory. Solitude, silence, and labor would produce remorse. They named the building after the feeling they wanted. Penitence, a penitentiary. In 1829, Eastern State opened and took it to the limit. Each man alone in a cell. Total silence. For years, visitors came from across the world to admire it. Charles Dickens came and left horrified. He wrote that it was worse than any physical punishment because the damage was invisible. And notice what this new theory quietly does. Compensation was aimed at the victim. Public spectacle was aimed at the crowd. Reform is aimed at the offender's soul, which is the one target that never asks to be paid back. Now step back and count what we have. Compensation, spectacle, exile, reform. For completely different theories of what punishment is for. Every one of them invented, argued over, replaced. All of it is scaffolding, built and rebuilt for 10,000 years. Around one thing that was never invented at all. In 2002, two economists ran a very simple game. Strangers put money into a shared pot. The pot grows and is split. So the smart move is to contribute nothing and take your share. And when nobody can react, cooperation collapses. Then they added one option. You could pay your own money to find a free rider. You gain nothing. The game ends. You never meet them again. People used it constantly. And cooperation shot back up and stayed there. This is called altruistic punishment. Paying a personal cost to make an unfair person suffer. And in 2004, researchers scanned people doing it. They watched the reward system of the brain light up. The same circuitry that responds to food and money. Punishing a cheat is not a duty you perform. It is something your brain pays you to enjoy. And it does not check whether you are correct. It does not ask for evidence or wait for the other side. It just wants the person who broke the rule to hurt. So look at the whole shape of this. Every society that has ever existed had the same raw material. A population of people who badly want to make wrongdoers suffer. And they all discovered the same problem. If everyone acts on that feeling, the society eats itself. So they built the price list. The stone in the square. The king's peace. The vote. The judge. The wall. Different answers to one question. How do we take revenge out of your hands? Without leaving you feeling that nothing happened? That is what a courtroom is. That is what a sentence is. Not a moral truth. A containment system. And you can watch it fail in real time. Every time a crowd decides it cannot wait for the process. Every time punishing someone feels good before you know the facts. Ancient people did not invent punishment because they were cruel. They invented it because they had already met you.